Speaking of falling out of love, it appears that a lot of New York officials, including maybe even the Obama administration, falling out of love with New York City as the site for the Khalid Sheikh Mohammed trial. Carl, does it matter, though, if in fact they move it out of New York City and into another civilian court and keep this in a criminal court, or do they need to move this to a military tribunal for you to be satisfied?
Yeah, well, my view is military tribunal, because the problems they have in Lower Manhattan are going to be duplicated wherever they are in the country. Maybe they'll be less expensive, or maybe they'll be, a more remote location, but it is going to be a problem. And look, fundamentally, it is wrong. I mean, these are enemy combatants. Why are we treating them like they're common criminals? In fact, you know what? It just makes my teeth stand on edge when I read in the paper or hear commentators or journalists say the alleged mastermind of the 9/11 attack. Look, this is not, I mean, would we say Adolf Hitler, the alleged architect of the invasion of France? I mean, no, we wouldn't. We treat him as an enemy combatant. This guy admitted to it. He is the leader of it. We ought to treat him as an enemy combatant and not as some guy that was picked up on a sweep of minor criminals who knocked over 7-Eleven.
But Carl, let me give you the other side, and that is that they're considering trying him in D.C. or in the Eastern District of Virginia, because those two districts have successfully been able to try and handle high-profile terrorism cases, some, I believe, even under the Bush administration.
Yeah, and look, I got to tell you, Richard Reed was tried under the Bush administration in civil and criminal court. Moussaoui was, and in the retrospect, the general consensus inside the Bush administration was it was a disaster. We escaped an even worse disaster in the Moussaoui case because he pled guilty. We did not have the military tribunal set up fully by the time of Moussaoui. In retrospect, everyone wished that, virtually everyone I talked to at the time, wished we had not done it because it was such a problem. Moussaoui could have done real damage to sources and methods of intelligence, and he would have also had a worldwide stage to sort of inflame the Islamic world against the United States in a courtroom. And it's better. This is why we put a strong emphasis on doing it in military tribunals, because the times we tried this in the Bush administration, trying to figure out how to do this, were utter disasters. We shouldn't have done it.
Let me play you a little soundbite from what Mayor Bloomberg had to say about this whole thing. Take a listen.
Attorney General Holder called me and said, can you provide security? I spent some time with Commissioner Kelly, and we came back, and I said to him, yes, we can. It's going to cost a lot of money, and we'd like you to pay for it. But if they were to move it elsewhere, I'd be very happy with that.
So it appears, Carl, that this has come down to money, because especially if this bill going through Congress right now and Representative King trying to get this thing, Department of Justice funds from being used for civilian trials. Does it all come down to money here?
Well, look, it is a lot of money. I mean, we're talking about $400 billion. $400 million is what they're talking about. And remember, that's just the tip of the iceberg. Every one of these jurors is going to need long time, if not lifelong, protection. So will the prosecutors. So will the judges. I mean, the Lower Manhattan would be filled with police officers and law enforcement, federal and state law enforcement, local law enforcement. That's what you're going to have when you put it in this system. And not only that, but we don't need to do it. This would be the first time in the history of the United States that we treated enemy combatants as common criminals and put them into the regular justice system. That we ought to leave them as we have left them since the beginning of the Republic, and that is military tribunals.